My name is Jenna. I am 29 years old, and I will never forget the night my husband left me standing in the rain to teach me a lesson. I was soaking wet, watching his taillights disappear down the street, thinking he had finally shown me exactly who he was. But what Derek did not know, what he could not have possibly imagined, was that within minutes someone would arrive who would change everything and reveal the truth he never saw coming. Before I tell you how everything changed that night, I want to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe, because what happened next completely turned my world upside down. Let me take you back to where it all started. Derek and I had been married for 3 years. We met through a dating app, just like millions of other couples trying to find love in this modern world. But our story had a twist that Derek never knew about. You see, I deliberately hid my background from him. I hid where I came from, who my family was, and exactly how much money sat in my bank accounts. I know that sounds deceptive, but I had my reasons. Good reasons. Before Derek, I had dated 4 different men over the course of 6 years. Every single one of them changed the moment they discovered my family's wealth. They became different people, treating me like a trophy or a ticket to an easier life. One guy even proposed within 3 weeks of finding out. It was never about me, it was always about what I represented, what I could give them, what doors I could open. So, when I created that dating profile, I used my mother's maiden name. I lived in a small apartment in a modest neighborhood. I worked as a freelance graphic designer, which was true, but I did it for passion rather than necessity. I wanted to find someone who would love me for who I actually was, not for the zeros in my trust fund or the last name that opened boardroom doors across the country. Derek seemed perfect at first. He worked in real estate, making a decent income, but nothing extraordinary. He was charming during our dates, asking about my day, listening to my stories about difficult clients and design challenges. He paid for dinners without making a big show of it. He remembered small details I mentioned in passing. When he proposed after 18 months, I thought I had finally found it. Real love, authentic connection. The wedding was small, just like I wanted. My mother attended, playing the role of a regular parent rather than the CEO she actually was. Marcus, my head of security since childhood, watched from a distance, concerned but respecting my choices. I promised them I knew what I was doing. I promised them Derek was different. For the first year of marriage, things were genuinely good. We lived in a comfortable apartment that Derek could afford on his salary. I continued my freelance work, contributing to household expenses from my earnings, careful never to spend more than what my supposed income would allow. We cooked dinner together, watched movies on weekends, and talked about maybe starting a family someday. But then something shifted. It was gradual at first, so subtle I almost missed it. Derek started asking more questions about my spending. Where did I buy those shoes? How much did I pay for that coffee? Could I really afford to order takeout when I only had 2 clients that week? At first, I thought he was just being financially responsible, looking out for our future together. Then the comments started getting sharper. He would mention how his salary was the backbone of our household. He would say things like, "Good thing I have a stable job since your freelance income is so unpredictable." He began calling my work that little hobby of yours, instead of recognizing it as a legitimate career. I tried to brush it off. Marriage requires adjustment, I told myself. Everyone has growing pains in the first few years. I loved Derek, and I wanted our marriage to work. So I stayed quiet, swallowed my frustration, and kept playing the role of the struggling freelancer married to her financially stable husband. Derek's family made things worse. His sister Stephanie had a way of delivering insults wrapped in sweet smiles. At family dinners, she would introduce me to her friends by saying, "This is Jenna, Derek's wife. She does some design work from home." The emphasis she put on "from home" made it sound like I spent my days watching television in my pajamas instead of working with clients across 3 time zones. I wanted to tell them the truth so many times. I wanted to explain that the apartment I lived in before meeting Derek was not rented, but owned outright, that I owned the entire building, actually. I wanted to mention that my mother ran a company with 17,000 employees. I wanted to watch their faces change when they realized I did freelance work because I enjoyed it, not because I needed the money. But I stayed silent, because the moment I revealed the truth, I would know for certain whether Derek loved me or loved what I could give him. And I was not ready for that answer yet. The real cracks started showing about 6 months before everything fell apart. Derek came home one evening driving a brand new luxury car, a sleek black BMW with leather seats and all the upgrades. He was grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. "What do you think?" he asked, jingling the keys. I was confused. "When did you decide to buy a new car?" His smile faltered slightly. "I did not realize I needed your permission to make purchases with my own money." "That is not what I meant," I said carefully. "I just thought we made big financial decisions together." Derek shook his head. "Jenna, this is my money. I earned it. I can buy what I want." I nodded slowly, trying to process the double standard, but I let it go. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was being too controlling. 2 weeks later, my laptop started failing. I needed a new computer for work, something reliable that could handle design software. I mentioned it to Derek over breakfast. "How much does a new laptop cost?" he asked. "Around $1,200 for the specs I need." His eyebrows shot up. $1,200 for a computer? "It is for work, Derek. I need professional-grade equipment." He put down his coffee mug with a sharp clink. "Do you have $1,200 in your account right now?" The question stung. Of course I had $1,200. I had considerably more than that. But he did not know that, and his tone suggested I should not be spending money I supposedly did not have. "I have been saving," I said quietly. "Maybe you should save more before making expensive purchases," he replied. "We need to be smart about money." I wanted to scream. He had just bought a $45,000 car without consulting me, but I could not spend $1,200 on equipment I needed for my job. But I held my tongue, swallowing the unfairness like bitter medicine. The pattern continued. Derek would make purchases without discussion, but he questioned every dollar I spent. He started asking me to show him my bank statements, claiming he wanted to help me budget better. I refused as politely as I could, saying I wanted to maintain some financial independence. That refusal triggered their first truly big fight. "Why are you being so secretive?" Derek demanded. "We are married. We should not have secrets." "It is not about secrets," I tried to explain. "It is about maintaining my own identity." "That is ridiculous. What are you hiding?" "Everything I thought. I am hiding everything, but what I said was, I am not hiding anything. I just want some autonomy." Derek's face darkened. "You know what I think? I think you are being selfish. I think you do not trust me. After everything I have done for you, for us, you cannot even be transparent about your finances." The argument lasted 2 hours. Derek slept on the couch that night. For the next week, he barely spoke to me beyond necessary household communication. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, trying to figure out how to make things right without compromising the boundary I desperately needed to maintain. Then came Stephanie's birthday party. Derek insisted I dress nicely, saying he did not want me to embarrass him in front of his family. I chose a simple but elegant dress, did my hair and makeup carefully, and tried to prepare myself mentally for an evening of subtle condescension. The party was at an upscale restaurant. Stephanie had invited about 30 people, and the room buzzed with conversation and laughter. I stayed close to Derek, smiling politely as he introduced me to people I had never met. "This is my wife, Jenna," he would say, and then, almost as an afterthought, "She does freelance graphic design." Every time he said it, the emphasis made it sound diminishing, like my work was a cute pastime rather than a legitimate profession. Stephanie found me near the appetizer table halfway through the evening. She had a glass of wine in one hand and that familiar smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Jenna, darling, come meet my friend Patricia. She runs a marketing firm." Patricia was a tall woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an even sharper handshake. "Stephanie tells me you do design work," she said. "Yes, I specialize in brand identity and digital design," I replied, trying to sound professional. "How interesting. Do you work from home?" "I do. I have clients across the country, so remote work makes the most sense." Patricia nodded, but I could see her mentally categorizing me. Work from home meant not serious. Freelance meant unstable. I had seen that look before. Before I could say anything else, Derek appeared at my elbow. "Patricia, great to see you. How is business?" They launched into a conversation about market trends and commercial properties. I stood there silently, apparently no longer part of the discussion. After a few minutes, Derek said something that made my blood run cold. "We are actually looking for more stable career options for Jenna. The freelance thing is not really working out long term." I turned to stare at him. "Excuse me." "Well, it is true, honey," he said, not even looking at me. "You need something more reliable, something with benefits and a steady paycheck." "I never said that." I managed to keep my voice level. "My freelance work is going very well." Derek finally looked at me, and his expression was patronizing. "Come on, Jenna, let us be realistic." Patricia made some polite excuse and drifted away, clearly uncomfortable. I waited until she was out of earshot before turning to Derek. "Why did you say that?" "Say what? That my work is not working out? That I need to find something else?" Derek sighed like I was being difficult. "Because it is true. You cannot keep pretending that freelancing is a real career. It is a real career. I have clients, I have projects, I make money. Not enough money, not stable money. Jenna, I am trying to help you grow up here." Grow up. The words hit me like a slap. I was 29 years old, running a successful design practice that I did not even need for income, and my husband was telling me to grow up. I did not say anything else that night. I smiled through the rest of the party, sang happy birthday to Stephanie, and stayed quiet during the drive home. But inside something had broken. A crack had formed that I knew would only get wider. The week after Stephanie's party felt like living with a stranger. Derek was short with me, impatient, dismissive. When I tried to bring up what he had said at the party, he waved me off. "You are being too sensitive," he said. "I was just trying to help." It did not feel like help. It felt like humiliation. "Maybe, if you were not so defensive, you could actually hear what I am trying to tell you." Every conversation ended the same way, with me feeling smaller and Derek acting like I was the problem. I started wondering if maybe I was crazy. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe I should be grateful he cared enough to give me career advice, even if it felt insulting. But then Derek started checking my phone. He claimed it was because we were married and should not have secrets. He would pick it up while I was cooking or showering, scrolling through my messages and emails. The first time I caught him, I asked what he was doing. "Just looking," he said casually. "You do not mind, right? We are married." "I do mind, actually. That is my private property." Derek's face hardened. "Private property? From your husband. What are you hiding, Jenna?" "I am not hiding anything, but everyone deserves privacy, even in marriage." That is what people say when they have something to hide. I thought about Marcus, who called me once a week to check in. I thought about my mother, who texted occasionally asking if I was okay. I had saved their numbers under fake names, knowing Derek would question who they were, and I hated that I had to do that. I hated living like I was doing something wrong when all I wanted was to maintain a connection with my real life. One evening, Marcus called while Derek and I were having dinner. I let it go to voicemail, but Derek noticed. "Who was that? Just a friend." "What friend?" "An old family friend." Derek's eyes narrowed. "A man." "Yes, but it is not like that. He is like an uncle to me." "Then why did you not answer?" "Because you would interrogate me for an hour," I thought. Because you would demand to know every detail about who he is and why he is calling, because I am exhausted from defending every aspect of my life to you. I will call him back later, I said instead. Derek stared at me for a long moment. I do not want you talking to other men. I actually laughed. It was so absurd. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious. You are my wife. You should not be getting calls from random men. He is not a random man. He is someone I have known my entire life. I do not care. I do not want you talking to him. The conversation devolved into another argument. Derek accused me of having inappropriate relationships. I tried to explain that Marcus was simply a family friend, but Derek would not listen. Eventually, I gave up, retreating to the bedroom while Derek stayed in the living room, his anger filling the entire apartment like toxic smoke. A few days later, Derek brought up our finances again. This time, he had a specific request. I think we should combine all our accounts, he announced over breakfast. Put everything in one joint account that I can manage. Manage? Yes, I am better with money, Jenna. Let me handle our finances, and you can focus on your design work. The suggestion was so outrageous I almost laughed again. But his face was completely serious. No, I said simply. No, I am keeping my own account. Derek's jaw clenched. Why, what possible reason could you have for refusing unless you do not trust me? It is not about trust, it is about independence. There is no independence in marriage. There is partnership, and partners trust each other with money. I trust you, I lied, but I want to keep my financial autonomy. Derek stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You are impossible. You know that I am trying to build a life with you, and you keep pushing me away. I am not pushing you away. Yes, you are, with your secrets and your boundaries and your need for independence. Maybe if you actually acted like a wife instead of a roommate, we would not be having these problems. He left for work without saying goodbye. I sat at the breakfast table, my coffee growing cold, wondering how I had ended up here. 3 years ago, I thought I had found someone who loved me for me. Now, I was living with someone who seemed to resent everything about me, except the version he wanted me to become. I picked up my phone and texted Marcus. I think I made a mistake. His response came immediately. I am here whenever you need me. I did not respond. Not yet. I was not ready to admit defeat. I was not ready to accept that I had wasted 3 years trying to make something work that was fundamentally broken. But I should have been ready, because what happened next forced my hand in a way I never could have anticipated. The night everything changed started like so many others. Derek came home from work in a bad mood. I could see it in the set of his shoulders, the way he dropped his keys too hard on the counter, the heavy sigh as he loosened his tie. Rough day, I asked, trying to be supportive. You have no idea. I waited to see if he would elaborate, but he just walked to the bedroom without another word. I heard drawers opening and closing, the sound of him changing clothes. When he came back to the living room, he was wearing jeans and a fresh shirt, clearly planning to go somewhere. Are you going out? I asked. Yes? Where out? The single-word answer told me this was not going to be a pleasant conversation, but I pressed on anyway. I thought we could talk tonight. About us, about everything that has been happening. Derek laughed, but there was no humour in it. Talk, that is all you ever want to do? Talk about your feelings, talk about respect, talk about boundaries. I am sick of talking, Jenna. His words stung, but I kept my voice calm. Communication is important in marriage. You know what else is important? Appreciation, gratitude, understanding your place. There it was again, that phrase, your place. What does that mean? I asked. My place. Derek turned to face me fully, and his expression was cold in a way I had never seen before. It means recognizing what I have given you. It means being thankful instead of constantly questioning everything I do. I do appreciate you, I said, even though it was becoming less true by the minute. But appreciation does not mean I should accept being disrespected. Disrespected, his voice rose. I have given you everything, a home, stability, a life better than what you had before. And you call that disrespect? You left me standing in the rain 2 months ago because I disagreed with you about dinner plans. I shot back my own anger, finally rising to meet his. You told me to walk home in a storm to teach me to be more agreeable. Wait, that had not happened yet. I was getting confused, my emotions tangling with the present moment. Derek stepped closer, his face inches from mine. Maybe I should have. Maybe you need to learn what life is like without me. What are you talking about? I am talking about the fact that you have become impossible to live with. Nothing I do is good enough. Nothing I say is right. You question every decision I make. That is not true. It is completely true, and tonight I am done with it. I am going out and you are going to stay here and think about how you want this marriage to go. Because right now you are pushing me away and I am about done being pushed. Thunder rumbled outside. Through the window I could see dark clouds rolling in the kind that promised a serious storm. It is about to rain, I said. Can we please just talk about this? No, I am leaving. Derek grabbed his keys and headed for the door. Something in me snapped. I could not let him leave like this with all this anger hanging between us. I followed him. Derek, please, let us sit down and actually discuss what is wrong. He spun around at the door. What is wrong is you. You are what is wrong. You need to learn to be a better wife. The first drops of rain started falling as he walked out the door. I grabbed my phone and followed him into the parking lot. The rain was light at first, just a sprinkle, but I could feel the temperature dropping the storm building. Where are you going? I called after him. None of your business. We drove here together this morning. You cannot just leave me. Derek reached his car and unlocked it. Watch me. I caught up to him as he opened the door. Rain was falling harder now, soaking through my thin shirt. Derek, please, this is ridiculous. Can we just go inside and talk? He looked at me and his eyes were completely devoid of warmth. You want to talk, fine. Here is what I have to say. You need to learn your place in this marriage. You need to understand that I am the one who provides, who makes things work, who keeps this family afloat. And until you can appreciate that, until you can show some gratitude and respect, you need to think about what you are risking. What I am risking, what about what you are risking? I am not risking anything, Derek said coldly. You need me. I do not need you. The rain was pouring now, a total downpour that soaked us both within seconds. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a crack of thunder. Derek, it is storming. Whatever is wrong, we can fix it. Just come back inside. No, you stay out here and think about what I said. Think about whether you want to keep pushing me away or whether you want to start being the wife I deserve. The wife you deserve? What does that even mean? It means someone who respects me, someone who does not question every decision I make, someone who knows how lucky they are. I stared at him through the rainwater streaming down my face. Lucky? You think I should feel lucky to be with someone who treats me like I am nothing? You are nothing without me, Derek said. His voice was quiet now, almost matter of fact, which somehow made it worse. You were a struggling freelancer living in a tiny apartment when I met you. I gave you a real life, and you have spent 3 years being ungrateful. My heart was pounding. Water ran into my eyes, my clothes were plastered to my skin, and my husband was standing there telling me I was nothing. If you leave me here, I said slowly, in the rain, in a storm, we are going to have a serious problem. Derek actually smiled. What are you going to do? Jenna, leave me. You cannot survive without me. You do not know anything about me. I know everything I need to know. Now I am leaving. Walk home. It is only a few blocks. Maybe the rain will cool down that attitude of yours. He started to get into the car. I grabbed his arm. Derek, please. He shook me off, not roughly, but with enough force to make his point. Let go of me. This is a lesson, Jenna. Learn it. He climbed into the car and slammed the door. Through the rain-streaked window, I could see him looking straight ahead, jaw set, refusing to even glance at me. The engine started with a roar. I knocked on the window. "Derek, do not do this. Please." The car lurched backward out of the parking space. I had to jump back to avoid being hit. The headlights cut through the rain as Derek shifted into drive. "Derek!" I shouted, but my voice was lost in the storm. The car accelerated, sending up a spray of water that drenched me even more thoroughly. I watched the taillights disappear down the street, red dots fading into the darkness and rain. I stood there, completely alone in a parking lot during a thunderstorm, abandoned by my husband because he wanted to teach me a lesson about my place. And that was when everything changed. The rain was relentless, coming down in sheets so thick I could barely see the buildings around me. Lightning illuminated the sky every few seconds, followed by thunder that I could feel in my chest. I was soaked through shivering water running into my eyes and mouth as I stood there trying to process what had just happened. Derek had actually left me in a storm, alone, to teach me a lesson. I looked around the parking lot trying to figure out what to do. We were about 3 miles from our apartment, 3 miles in a storm like this, with no coat, no umbrella, already soaked to the bone. I could call a taxi, but my phone was in my pocket and probably water damaged by now. I pulled it out with shaking hands. The screen was wet, but still functioning. Small miracle. I wiped it on my shirt, which did nothing since my shirt was just as wet, and tried to think clearly. I could call a car service. That was the logical thing. Just get out of this rain and deal with Derek later. But standing there in that parking lot, water pooling around my shoes, I felt something shift inside me, a clarity that cut through the confusion and hurt. Derek had not just left me in the rain. He had shown me exactly who he was, someone who valued control over partnership, someone who saw me as less than him, someone who thought leaving his wife in a dangerous storm was an appropriate way to win an argument. And I was done, completely, utterly done. I scrolled through my contacts with numb fingers until I found the name I needed, the one I had been avoiding for weeks because calling him would mean admitting I had made a terrible mistake. But pride seemed pretty insignificant when you were standing alone in a thunderstorm because your husband decided you needed to be taught a lesson. I pressed call. Marcus answered on the first ring. "Miss Jenner?" His voice, professional and concerned as always, made something in my chest crack. "Marcus, I need help. Where are you? What happened?" I gave him the address, my voice shaking from cold and shock. "Derek left me here, in the rain. He said I needed to learn a lesson about being a better wife." There was a long pause on the other end. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was tight with controlled anger. "I will be there in 10 minutes. Stay where you are. Find shelter if you can." "Marcus, please do not tell my mother yet. We will discuss that later. Right now, just stay safe. I am on my way." He hung up. I looked around for shelter and spotted the covered entrance to a closed shop across the street. I ran for it, splashing through puddles, my shoes squelching with every step. The awning provided some protection from the rain. Though I was already so wet, it hardly mattered. I leaned against the wall, wrapping my arms around myself, trying to generate some warmth. My teeth were chattering, my whole body was shaking, and for the first time in 3 years, I let myself admit the truth. I had made a mistake marrying Derek. A huge mistake. I had been so desperate to find real love that I had ignored every red flag, every warning sign, every moment when he showed me exactly who he was. I had convinced myself things would get better, that we just needed to communicate more, that I needed to try harder. But you cannot fix someone who does not think they are broken. And Derek thought the problem was me. I do not know how long I stood there. Time felt strange, stretched out by the cold and the storm and the shock of everything that had just happened. But eventually, headlights turned into the parking lot across the street. A large black SUV, sleek and expensive, pulled up to where I had been standing minutes before. The driver's door opened and Marcus stepped out. Even in the rain, he looked composed, professional. He was wearing a dark suit with a raincoat over it, and he had an umbrella in one hand and a large coat in the other. He crossed the street quickly, holding the umbrella over me as he draped the coat around my shoulders. It was huge on me, warm and dry, and I could have cried from the simple kindness of it. "Let us get you out of this rain," Marcus said quietly. His voice was gentle, but I could see the anger in his eyes. Not at me, at Derek, at this entire situation. He guided me to the SUV, opening the passenger door and making sure I was settled before closing it carefully. The interior was warm, blessed warmth, and there were towels on the seat beside me. Marcus got back in the driver's seat and immediately turned up the heat. "Dry yourself off as much as you can," he said, pulling away from the curb. "There is water in the console and blankets in the back if you need them." I grabbed a towel and pressed it against my face, trying to absorb some of the water. My hands were still shaking. "Are you hurt?" Marcus asked, glancing at me. I shook my head. "Just cold and wet and—" I could not finish the sentence. What was I? Humiliated, heartbroken, furious. "I understand," Marcus said, which was the perfect response because I did not understand at all. We drove in silence for a few minutes. The rain was starting to let up slightly, the storm moving east. Through the windshield, I could see the city lights blurred by water on the glass. "Miss Jenner," Marcus said finally, "you cannot continue like this. You have been hiding for 3 years, hiding who you are, where you come from, what you are capable of. And for what? For a man who leaves you in a storm." "I wanted real love," I whispered. "I wanted someone to love me for me." "But this is not love," Marcus said gently but firmly. "This is control. This is manipulation. And you deserve so much better." I leaned my head against the window, watching the rain streak across the glass. He told me I was nothing without him, that I should be grateful he married me. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Where is he now?" "I do not know. He just left, said I needed to think about what I was risking." "What you are risking?" Marcus's voice was incredulous. "What about what he is risking? Does he have any idea who you actually are?" "No, and now I am glad he does not, because at least I know the truth. He does not love me. He loves the idea of me, the version he thinks he can control." We were heading back toward my apartment, or rather Derek's apartment. The place we had shared for 3 years, but that had never really felt like home. "What do you want to do now?" Marcus asked. I thought about that question, really thought about it. "What did I want?" "I want to go home," I said quietly. "Our real home, the one Derek does not know about." Marcus glanced at me, and I saw approval in his eyes. "Your mother will be relieved. She has been worried, has not she, every day, but she respects your choices. She always has." I pulled the coat tighter around myself. "Marcus, I need to get my things first, from the apartment." "Of course, we can go there now. And I need to see Derek, when he comes back." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Are you sure that is wise?" "I am sure it is necessary. He needs to know, all of it. He needs to understand what he just threw away." "Revenge?" Marcus asked, and I could hear the slight smile in his voice. "No, clarity. He deserves to know the truth before I walk away. And I deserve to see his face when he realizes exactly who I am." Marcus nodded. "Then that is what we will do." As we drove through the rain toward the apartment, I felt something I had not felt in 3 years. Freedom. The freedom that comes from finally making a decision that is entirely your own. Derek wanted to teach me a lesson. Well, he was about to learn one instead. When we pulled up to the apartment building, Derek's car was already in its spot. He had come home. I felt my stomach tighten with nerves, but I pushed the feeling down. I was done being afraid of my own husband. "Do you want me to come in with you?" Marcus asked. I looked at the building at the windows of the apartment where I had spent 3 years pretending to be someone I was not. "Yes, I want you there." Marcus parked the SUV and came around to open my door, still holding the umbrella even though the rain had slowed to a drizzle. We walked to the building entrance together, and I used my key to let us in. In the elevator, Marcus stood beside me, solid and reassuring. "How do you want to handle this?" he asked. "Honestly, for the first time in 3 years, I am going to be completely honest." The elevator dinged and the doors opened to our floor. I walked to the apartment door, my heart pounding, but my hands steady as I unlocked it. The living room lights were on. Derek was sitting on the couch eating pizza straight from the box, watching a basketball game on television. He looked completely relaxed, like he had not just abandoned his wife in a thunderstorm less than an hour ago. When I walked in, dripping wet, with Marcus behind me, Derek stood up. His eyes went from me to Marcus, confusion crossing his face, followed by anger. "Who is this?" Derek demanded. I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment where everything changed. "Derek, this is Marcus, my head of security." Derek stared at me like I was speaking another language. "You're what?" "My head of security," I repeated calmly. "He has been protecting me since I was a child." Derek looked at Marcus, taking in his expensive suit, his professional bearing, the way he stood like someone trained to handle any situation. "What the hell are you talking about? What kind of joke is this?" "It is not a joke," I said. I walked further into the room, leaving wet footprints on the carpet. "We need to talk, and this time you are going to listen." Derek's face was turning red. "I do not know what you think you are doing bringing some random guy into our home, but you need to send him away right now." "He stays," I said firmly, "and you are going to sit down." There was something in my voice, something that had been buried for 3 years, that made Derek hesitate. He sat back down on the couch, but his posture was rigid, defensive. Marcus remained standing near the door, hands clasped in front of him, watching Derek with an expression that could only be described as professional disdain. I stayed standing, looking down at Derek. My clothes were still wet, my hair plastered to my head, but I felt more powerful in that moment than I had in years. "Do you remember when we first met?" I asked Derek. "When I told you about my family, you said they were normal, middle class." I lied. Derek's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean you lied?" "I mean I deliberately hid the truth about who I am. My mother's name is Catherine Hartwell." I watched Derek's face carefully. The name meant nothing to him for about 5 seconds. Then recognition dawned, and his expression shifted from anger to confusion to shock. Catherine Hartwell, as in Hartwell Industries. Yes, CEO and majority shareholder. And I am her only daughter. Derek's mouth opened and closed like he could not find words. "You are telling me your mother runs Hartwell Industries, the Hartwell Industries, the billion-dollar company, multi-billion actually. Last quarter's earnings were quite strong. That is impossible. You live in a small apartment. You do freelance work. You drive a 10-year-old car." "I drove a 10-year-old car," I corrected. "And I lived in a small apartment, past tense. Before I met you, I owned that entire building, 8 units. I collected rent from 7 of them while I lived in the 8th. Derek stood up abruptly. "This is insane. You are lying." "I am not lying. For the first time in 3 years, I am telling you the complete truth." "Why?" Derek demanded. "Why would you lie about something like that?" "Because I wanted to find someone who loved me for who I am, not for my money, not for my connections, not for what I could give them, just me." I could see Derek's mind racing, trying to process this information, trying to understand what it meant. "My freelance work," I continued, "I do it because I enjoy it, because I am good at it, not because I need the income. I have a trust fund that pays out more in interest each month than you make in a year. I have stock portfolios, real estate investments, and a seat on the board of directors at Hartwell Industries that I will assume when I am ready. Derek sank back onto the couch, his face pale. You have been lying to me this entire time. I have been protecting myself, I corrected, and I was right to do so because tonight you showed me exactly who you are. You left me standing in a storm, Derek. You told me I was nothing without you. You said I should be grateful you married me because I was just a struggling freelancer in a tiny apartment. I did not know, Derek said weakly. That is exactly the problem. My voice rose for the first time. You should have treated me with respect regardless of how much money I had. You should have valued me as a person, as your wife, not as someone you could control, because you thought you had financial power over me. Derek looked at Marcus. And him, who is he really? Marcus stepped forward slightly. I am exactly who Miss Jenner said. I have been protecting her and her family for over 20 years. I am also the one who has been watching you, Mr. Whitmore, making sure you did not hurt her. Watching me? Derek's voice cracked. Yes, I have been keeping my distance at Miss Jenner's request, but I have always been close. And tonight, when you abandoned your wife in a dangerous storm, you crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Derek turned back to me, and I could see something changing in his face. The shock was wearing off, being replaced by calculation. Jenna, baby, listen. If I had known I would have treated you differently, you have to understand that. That is the problem, Derek. Do you not hear yourself? If you had known I was rich, you would have treated me better, but I was the same person, either way. I should have been treated with respect regardless of my bank account. That is not what I meant. Derek stood up again, moving toward me. I just mean we could have had a different life. A better life. Why did you make us live like this, when you could have given us so much more? I held up my hand, stopping him from coming closer. This is why I never told you, because the moment you found out, it would become about the money, about what I could give you, about the life you think you deserve. That is not fair. Is not it right now all you can think about is what you could have had? Not about how you treated me, not about the fact that you left me in a storm, just about the money you did not know existed. Derek ran his hands through his hair, clearly panicking. Okay, yes, I am processing a lot right now, but we can work through this. We can start over. I will be better, I promise. No, Derek, we cannot. Why not? People make mistakes. I made a mistake tonight, a big one, but we can fix this. I looked at him. This man I had married, this man I had tried so hard to love, and I felt nothing but sadness. You do not love me, Derek. You love what you think I can give you, and I am done pretending that is enough. Jenna, please, do not throw away our marriage over one bad night. It was not one bad night. It was 3 years of slowly escalating control and disrespect. Tonight was just the moment I finally had enough. Derek's face shifted from pleading to anger. You cannot just walk away. We are married. Yes, we are, and my lawyers will be contacting you about divorce proceedings next week. Divorce? Derek's voice rose. You cannot divorce me. You need me. I almost laughed. I have never needed you, Derek. That was the whole point. I wanted you. I chose you, but I never needed you. Oh, this is because of him is not it. Derek pointed at Marcus. You have been seeing him behind my back. Do not be ridiculous, Marcus said coldly. I am in a committed relationship and have been for 15 years. I am here in a professional capacity, nothing more. I do not believe you. I do not care what you believe, I said. Marcus is family. He has been since I was 14 years old, and the fact that you can only see him as a threat rather than what he actually is just proves how little you know me. Derek looked between us, his face red with fury and humiliation. So, what happens now? You just leave, take all your money and disappear. I take what is mine, I corrected, which is not much from this apartment since everything here is yours. I will be packing my personal belongings tonight. Marcus will help me, and then I will go home, my real home. And where is that? Somewhere you will never need to know about. Derek took a step toward me, his fists clenched. Marcus moved instantly, placing himself between Derek and me. He did not touch. Derek did not say anything, just stood there, a clear barrier. Derek stopped. For the first time, I think he understood that this was really happening, that I was really leaving, that no amount of anger or pleading or manipulation was going to change my mind. You will regret this, Derek said, his voice low and threatening. I looked him in the eye. No, Derek, the only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. Now please move. I need to pack. It took me less than an hour to pack everything that truly mattered. 3 years of marriage fit into 4 suitcases and 2 boxes, clothes books, my laptop and work equipment, a few photographs from before I met Derek, some jewellery that had belonged to my grandmother. Derek sat on the couch the entire time, alternating between watching me pack and staring at the wall. Sometimes he would start to say something, then stop. Marcus stood in the doorway of the bedroom, making sure Derek did not try anything. When I zipped the last suitcase, I stood in the middle of the bedroom and looked around. This place had never really been home. I realised that now. Home was not where you felt small. Home was where you felt free. I carried my bags to the living room. Marcus took them from me, loading them onto a small cart he had brought up from the car, efficient as always. Derek stood when I walked toward the door. Jenna, please, one more chance, I can change. I paused, looking at him one final time. Derek, I hope you find someone who makes you happy, but more than that, I hope you learn to see people as more than what they can give you. What is that supposed to mean? It means you need to grow up, and I cannot teach you how to do that. You have to figure it out yourself. I walked to the door. Marcus was already in the hallway with my things. Jenna, Derek called after me. I did not turn around. I just kept walking. In the elevator going down, I felt lighter than I had in years, like I had been carrying something heavy and had finally set it down. How are you feeling? Marcus asked gently. Tired, I admitted. But good. Is that strange? Should I be more upset? You are in shock. The emotions will come later, but I think mostly you will feel relieved. He was right. As we loaded my things into the SUV and drove away from that apartment building, leaving Derek and that entire chapter of my life behind, what I felt most was relief. The rain had stopped completely. The sky was clearing, revealing stars. It felt symbolic somehow, like the storm had passed in more ways than one. Where to, Miss Jenna? Marcus asked. Home, I said simply. Take me home. We drove through the city away from the neighbourhood I had been living in toward the other side of town where property values tripled and security gates protected sprawling estates. Marcus pulled up to a gate with a keypad, entered a code, and the iron bars swung open smoothly. The house at the end of the long driveway was lit up, every window glowing warmly. It was a beautiful home, the one I had grown up in, the one I had left 3 years ago, to prove I could make it on my own. As we pulled up to the front entrance, the door opened. My mother stood there, backlit by the interior lights, and even from the car I could see the relief on her face. I got out of the SUV and walked up the steps. Catherine Hartwell, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, one of the most powerful women in the country, opened her arms, and I walked into them like I was still a child. Welcome home, sweetheart, she said softly. And finally, after 3 years of hiding and pretending and trying to be someone I was not, I was home. The next few months were a process of healing. I worked with a therapist to understand how I had let myself stay in a situation that was clearly unhealthy. I learned about the patterns of control and manipulation, about how they start small and build gradually until you do not even recognize what is happening to you. I also started working at Hartwell Industries, learning the business from the ground up, like my mother had always hoped I would. It turned out I was good at it. The creative skills I had developed as a designer translated well into marketing and brand development. I found myself enjoying the challenges, the problem-solving, the feeling of building something meaningful. Derek tried to contact me multiple times. Calls, texts, emails, even showing up at the old apartment building where he thought I still had connections. My lawyers handled all of it. The divorce went through smoothly. He tried to claim he deserved a portion of my assets since we had been married for 3 years, but the prenuptial agreement I had insisted on, which he had barely read before signing, protected everything that was mine before the marriage. He got nothing except the knowledge that he had thrown away something real because he could not see past his own ego. I ran into Stephanie at a charity event 6 months later. She did not recognize me at first, not in my designer dress, and with my mother by my side. When she realized who I was, her face went through about 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. "Jenna," she said uncertainly. "Hello, Stephanie. Nice to see you again. I heard about the divorce. I am so sorry things did not work out." I smiled politely. "I am not. Sometimes things not working out is the best possible outcome." She did not know what to say to that, so she made an excuse and walked away. I never saw her again. Marcus continued to be a steady presence in my life, just as he had always been. He and his partner James came to dinner once a month, and we would talk about everything and nothing. He never said "I told you so," even though he had every right to. He just welcomed me back into my real life with quiet support and the occasional dry comment about my taste in men. "Maybe next time, let me run a background check first," he suggested once over dinner. I threw a dinner roll at him. My mother never pressured me to join the company permanently, but when I told her I wanted to, that I was ready to step into the role I had been born for, her smile was brighter than any I had ever seen. "I always knew you would come home when you were ready," she said. "I just did not know it would take someone leaving you in the rain to make you realize where you belonged." A year after that night, I was thriving. I had my own office at Hartwell Industries. I was leading a team developing campaigns, making decisions that affected thousands of employees. I had rebuilt my social life, reconnecting with old friends and making new ones who knew exactly who I was from the start. And I had learned something valuable, not about love, ironically, but about myself. I learned that I did not need to make myself smaller to make someone else comfortable. I learned that respect is not negotiable. I learned that the right person will love you at full volume, not ask you to turn yourself down. I also learned that sometimes the worst moments of your life lead to the best decisions you will ever make. Standing in the rain that night, watching Derek's taillights disappear, I thought I was at my lowest point, but really, I was at a turning point, the moment where I stopped accepting less than I deserved and started demanding more. Not more money or status or power, but more respect, more honesty, more authenticity. Derek tried to teach me a lesson that night. He wanted to show me my place, make me grateful for what he provided, force me to acknowledge his importance in my life. Instead, he taught me something much more valuable. He taught me that I did not need anyone to complete me. I was already whole, and anyone who could not see that, who could not appreciate me exactly as I was, did not deserve a place in my life. The best revenge, they say, is living well, and I was living very well indeed. So to anyone out there who feels small in their relationship, who feels controlled or diminished or less than they know they are, I want you to hear this. You deserve better. You deserve to be loved for exactly who you are. You deserve someone who builds you up instead of tearing you down. You deserve respect and kindness and partnership. And if someone tries to teach you a lesson by making you feel worthless, remember this. The only lesson you need to learn is that you are worth so much more than they will ever understand. Walk away. Find your Marcus, your supportive people who will drive through a storm to get you. Go home to yourself, whoever and wherever that is. Because sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. And sometimes the best thing someone can do for you is show you exactly who they are, so you can make the choice to walk away. Have you ever stayed in a relationship longer than you should have because you were hoping things would change? Have you ever had a moment where someone showed you their true colours and you had to make a hard choice? Drop your story in the comments below. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Subscribe for more real stories about love loss and finding yourself. And share this video with anyone who might need to hear that they deserve better. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there find the strength to choose themselves. You deserve a love that does not ask you to shrink. You deserve a partnership built on mutual respect, and you deserve to live in your full truth without apology. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to yourselves, and remember that walking away from something that hurts you is not giving up. It is choosing yourself, and that is always the right choice.